Hey, this is RJ May, and you're watching Mr. Mario 2011.
Hey, so what is going on, everyone? It is me, Mr. Mar, and as you can see right here, we have my nice table that isn't too nice anymore and does have quite a few battle scars on it. However, that just adds age to it. But whenever I do show this table, it is either for two things. It's either one, for a review, or two, for an unboxing. Well, guess what? I've already unboxed it, so today I'm going to be reviewing the Lenovo Y5070 gaming laptop. As some of you might or might not know, I did pick this thing up about 3 weeks ago, and I've had about 3 weeks to, play around with it, mess around with it, see the good things, see the bad things, and I wanted to do my review of it. I didn't want to do one immediately off the bat, and honestly, for true laptop usage, I still think this is kind of early, but I've had a good amount of time with it already, so I figured, this will be the good short-term stuff at least. Anyways, getting into this topic, why did I pick this laptop and why did I get a gaming laptop? Well, first off, this thing is $1,000. That's when I picked it up. It's USD $1,000. I believe it went up to less than a week after I bought it. It went back up to $1,100, and it's normally $1,200. I picked it up off Newegg, and as many of you might know, that is a good amount of money that you could spend on a nice new desktop if you were to build one right now. Well, here's the thing. I'm still quite happy with my desktop. I plan on doing a new build, probably in 2016 or something like that, just a whole new build so I can have, DDR4, a nice new processor, all new graphics cards, all that good stuff. But for now, mine is working fine with me. Well, this is actually to replace my old laptop. My old laptop I purchased in 2011, and the thing was literally falling apart. Oh, and the biggest thing about it was the wireless card barely worked on there, and I had replaced almost everything either in or out of warranty. And my logic is, if you have a laptop and the Wi-Fi doesn't work, you might as well just ground it and hook it up to your TV or something like that. There's no reason to bring it around if the Wi-Fi doesn't work. Anyways, with that being said, I went ahead, picked up this thing right here, and it seems to fit my needs pretty well. Now, my needs have been, I'm going to do some gaming on the side, but I do travel a decent amount, mainly in the second half of the year, which I've been doing right now recently. This laptop has actually come with me to 3 different cities, and it has been in 2 different states so far in the past 3 weeks that I've owned it. Now, with all of that, I really needed something that would be reliable, that would be fast, which almost any laptop for $500 or less can do, but I also needed something that could do, full 1080p. It could render out, my videos very easily. All the videos, including this that I do, it would be able to handle those well enough. And, some gaming on the side would be great. Counter-Strike 1.6, that works on any system and it's great, but I'd like to download, the new games and play them on here. So anything, if I'm in a hotel room, I want to play a few matches of Titanfall, I can do that with this laptop. I couldn't do that with my old laptop. Now let's go over the specs for this laptop. It has an i7-4710HQ CPU clocked at 2.4 GHz, and that is a quad-core CPU in this thing, and it also has integrated graphics if you all are interested, so that is an option. Now with the graphics also comes the GPU. It has an NVIDIA GTX 860M, the 2GB edition, so it can play games, pretty well for what it is. It has 8GB of RAM preloaded on here, I believe at 1600 speed, and it has 2 slots for RAM, and I believe the maximum RAM you can handle on this laptop is 16 GB. You might be able to do more, but from what I've seen, it's been listed at 16, and I haven't tried upgrading it because I'll be honest, I have not had a need for anything bigger than 8 GB yet. Now, the screen itself is not touchscreen, it is just a regular screen, but it is 15.6 inches, and it also has a backlit keyboard on here, and then 2 USB 3 slots and 1 USB 2 slot on the side over here. The cooling systems, it also works through here, so there's a vent here, a vent over here where all the air comes out. However, you need to keep the laptop open for it to ventilate properly because it also has a vent right inside the hinge here, so it requires the laptop to be open, and it also does cooling through the keyboard itself like the MacBooks do. Now, the drive on here as well, I'm going to talk about 2 drives. One of them I'm going to talk more than the other one about, but it has a solid-state hybrid drive. Now, some people might not be familiar with that, and I'll explain what it is. Essentially, it is a hard drive with a solid state cache on there. So I have an 8GB solid state drive combined with a 1TB hard drive, so I get all the space of my 1TB. However, the real treat with this laptop is the more you use it, the faster it becomes, due to the fact that anything that it uses quite often or quite a bit, it starts caching over to that 8GB partition. And really the only way to do it is to just use your laptop. So that's why I said, like, in these 3 weeks, if you compare this laptop to the day I got it and compare it to now, it is actually sped up dramatically. Now, it's not quite solid state speed, however, it handles it very well, and it's super close to solid state speed, I want to say, in many different aspects. And this is coming from someone who had a solid state in their old laptop, 2 solid states in their current desktop, one for Windows 7, one for Windows 8, a solid state drive at work, pretty much solid state drives in every computer I touch. So I haven't really felt much of a slowdown with this. Occasionally there's some slowdown, and I'm going to get into that at one point. And finally, probably the least important part of this laptop, it also comes with a optical drive. It comes with a nice DVD burner right here, which I'll be honest, I've used one time, and I just used it to read a DVD over. I actually have a legitimate copy of Office 2013, and I didn't feel like, you know, copying onto a flash drive and all that stuff, so I just hooked this thing up, installed it off the disk. It worked pretty well, but, you know, nobody's really buying a $1,000 laptop to figure out how good the optical drive is. Anyways, let's talk about the aesthetics on this laptop since I've had this closed up the entire time. Well, first off, the laptop itself, it's not as light as many people would want it to be, especially at this price, but you know what? At the same time, if you're getting a laptop like this and you're new to the gaming laptop market, well, most if not all gaming laptops are going to be noticeably heavier than other laptops, and this one weighs in at about 5.5 pounds, and that would be a little over, well, a little over or in between 2 to 2.5 kilos if you're, you know, anywhere else in the world that's not the US. The power brick itself too is also by itself like about a kilo, so that'd be what, like a pound, pound and a half, something like that. This thing is a monstrosity. Oh, and check this out, okay? This is gonna be the first bad thing I say, and this is not about the laptop, it's more about the support services. I'm used to having multiple power supplies, so I couldn't find the power supply for this laptop online, so I called up Lenovo and they said, oh yeah, you know, we have some power supplies and you can buy them from here. And they said that they have some 45 watt power supplies that were $40 a piece. And I said, you know what? That's safer and even cheaper than anywhere I've seen online. Sure, I'll get them. Well, guess what? They sent me these dinky little things right here. I got 2 of them, which I need to send back. They sent me this thing compared to this thing right here. And you might think, oh, well, Mario, I'm sure it still works. It just charges a lot slower. That was my thought too. No, I plugged it in because it's one of these smart plugs right here. I plugged it in and it brings up an error in the operating system that says that this charger is not compatible with my laptop. So I got to RMA both these back, and I was going to deal, I have the RMA set up. I need to talk to Lenovo again. I was going to deal with them more. The problem is the day I called them, I was not having the best day. And they had me on hold for so long. I was like, you know what? Give me the reference number. I'll call you all back because I can't afford to sit here for another 30 minutes waiting. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the aesthetics of this laptop for a second. Now, first off, as you all can see right here, it looks decently clean, but this material here, the way this is set up, it just absorbs fingerprints and thumbprints, and I hate it. So I don't like the outside look of this laptop. It also scuffs up real easily, but I expect that to happen. I have a few scuffs on it just from, you know, banging it around in my backpack, bringing it here and there. And as I said, I mean, I bring this thing to travel, so I'm not expecting it to be perfect, but if I could have an option where this is all just completely matte, it's not shiny, it's not metallic, I'd really like to have that. Unfortunately, I didn't see anything like that available. Now, the underside of this laptop is quite similar as well too, so it has the different type of setting going on. This looks like right here in the corner, it looks like this is set up for a stylus. I promise it's not. That's actually where the Ethernet cable goes right there. And they did kind of, you know, just round it off right here just so the laptop can be nice and sleek and everything. But you know, it has the feet here, it has this little subwoofer right here, which I will say it has a JBL sound system, and with that I've never really had a laptop impress me with its speakers, but this one has. So JBL has something good going on here, thankfully. I mean, you're not going to have any booming bass or anything like that, but it does sound quite good, and they are quite loud for laptop speakers, and they're crisp, so I really like that. But I mean, that's really the whole aesthetics of the laptop. And then there's no actual, you know, ports here or anything like that where you can just rip off and, you know, access the RAM, hard drive, anything like that. But there are screws where you can just unscrew this back here and you have access to everything. So from what I've seen, it's quite easy to upgrade. Now, opening up this laptop, you might notice that I do keep it nice and clean. Well, that is because, one, I've been cleaning it with these microfiber cloths. I got like 2 of them for $2 at Micro Center. And 2, this right here actually came with the laptop. And I'm trying to keep this for as long as I can. But this is just so the keyboard and the little palm rest here, which are the best ever absorbers of oils on your skin that you might not even know exist. I just don't want any of that oil transferring over to my nice screen right here, which happens with, you know, almost every laptop you see. So because of that, that is why I keep this right here. Now, the keyboard, it's very comfortable to use. I really don't have any issues with it. Speakers are right here. You have the one-touch recovery mode, which thankfully I have yet to use. And then you have the power button right there. And then the palm rest here, it is a nice matte finish, which is quite similar to the other laptop I had. However, as I said, all this stuff, like, these are like light black. With a few days usage, they'll turn like dark-ish black, especially on the keys you use the most. You'll have, you know, some black areas here where your palms rest. Even the mouse pad itself here, or the mouse pad, touchpad, whatever you want to call it, that will even get dirtied up as well. And this is, I believe it is legitimate glass, but it's very slick, very smooth to use. So I haven't had any issues with that. I mean, you're gonna have to clean it up, but you have to do that with almost any laptop. Now, the screen right here, of course it's off, but the screen is very crisp. You have a matte finish to the screen, not a glossy finish to it, which one of my friends, when he saw it, he was actually very impressed and thought that it was a special feature I ordered with this. Trust me, it's not. The reason why we both prefer matte screens is because with glossy screens, you see reflections. You could use it as a mirror while you're, you know, messing around with your laptop. I don't want that. No, I want to see the screen as is. And then the side bezel right here is all shiny, but it's not that metallic type shininess. It's plastic shiny, so it looks alright. Now, one complaint I really want to say about the aesthetics of this laptop are the USB ports. I don't know what's up with these, but it is terrible to use these USB ports, and by that I mean it's just like when you use them, you feel like your USB drives and all that are getting stuck, and you feel like you might be breaking the USB port. So honestly, if anything breaks on this thing, I wouldn't expect, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it is a USB port. I actually have my old laptop to demonstrate what I'm talking about right here, but I have a USB port on the side here. I just have a regular flash drive. You pop it in, easy enough. You pop it out. That was pretty effortless, wasn't it? Well, check this out with the new laptop. The new laptop right here, again, same flash drive. You pop this in, and you have to like noticeably struggle a little bit to put it in. Then even taking the USB port out, the flash drive, it just like, I might not be capturing it that well on camera, but it just, you feel a lot of tension with it, and it just, especially taking the USB drive out of there, it feels like you're gonna break something. Now, I've noticed, maybe it's just because the laptop is still kind of new, but I can imagine a lot of people that got these things might have messed up their USB ports just because of that, because sometimes, I mean, it might feel like you have to jar it around a little bit, but no, it doesn't come out as effortlessly as it should, unfortunately. That's really the only other complaint I have about the aesthetics of this laptop, but let's get into the laptop itself now. Now, I'm going to show you all right here the laptop booting up. So, I have it turned off, obviously. We'll go ahead and turn it on. Now, because this does have all the custom Lenovo stuff on here and everything, I didn't put a fresh image on there, I just kept it as is. It does have the Lenovo post screen, but instead of the Windows 8 boot up screen, instead of, you know, having the nice little Windows logo, it just has this, the Lenovo logo, and then just, you know, the swirls right there. So that's really all there is to it, but it can boot up into Windows 8, well, 8.1 specifically. I believe that's what it came with on here, because I don't think I had to do a big update. Then if we wait a little bit, there we go. Now, as I said, it's not, you know, completely top-of-the-line solid-state speed, but it gets pretty damn close in my opinion, but it's still very fast. And one thing I want to show you all is the shutdown sequence on here. Now I noticed when you shut it down, it shuts down quite fast. However, it does stay on, you know, quote unquote on, for about a minute longer. And you can tell just by the lights down here. You can't see them, they're out of frame. There are the indicator lights, and then just the keyboard will stay on. And what it does is it just kind of lightly runs the fan. So what it really does there is it's just cooling down your laptop before it completely shuts it down. Because one big thing that can kill, you know, computer components, all that stuff, is heat. But also one thing that's even bigger than that is just computer components heating up and then rapidly cooling down. So it tries to kind of help out. Does it help out that much? I'm sure it does a little bit, because there's nothing else going on, and its only job right now is just to push out extra hot air that it can, but it does have that. So if you do have one of these laptops and it's taking an extra minute or so, it just does something like this, don't worry, it's not broken. That's just one of the features of this laptop. Now, to anyone that might be worried about the keyboard being too bright, don't worry about that. You can actually do function and then hit the space bar. So there's only two settings of light for this, but this is the highest setting. That is the keyboard off. And there's another setting right there, which is what it was set at before. So that's be like, you know, low, high, off. That's pretty much what it is. Now, as you can see, we have the screen on right here. It looks very crisp. It looks very clean. I really don't have any issues with it. Now, I'm going to talk about some other things here. Now, first off, I said there's integrated graphics, and there is the actual separate GPU, the NVIDIA GTX 860M. Now, because of that, you can change what you want to do. And you might notice when I was first using this thing, just, you know, browser windows and all that just looked kind of blurry. And it looked like they kind of had to come into focus. Now, what I did at first, I changed everything globally to the GPU. However, because of that, it does wear down a little bit more on your battery because it is using the GPU instead of the integrated graphics. So they do that, you know, just so you don't abuse the GPU, just so it has some, you know, some more life to it, but also at the same time, just so you can save on some battery power. But I've noticed, I feel like it's something also with the hybrid drive as well, because there's a lot of things with this laptop that rely on that hybrid drive right there. Of course, everything is on there. But what I mean by that is I'm having that issue less now than I did 3 weeks ago. Another thing is when I was using this at first, when I was loading it up with stuff, I believe it's because that solid state drive cache, it just needs to really decide, you know, what to put where. Anytime I was installing any program, the laptop's unusable. Now, I haven't done any installs recently, so I can't really vouch for that right now, but anytime I installed a program, a game, whatever it is, the laptop was just unusable until that install finished up. And I feel like that was just because also the first few days, because I had to go out of town and all that, I was just loading it up with everything possible, so it didn't know what to cache. And then, you know, I was changing up things here and there, but it all runs very fast. And I'll even open up one of my programs. I'll run Premiere Pro, which is one of the most demanding programs I have on here. So we'll go ahead and open this up. And again, not solid state speed, but pretty damn close to it. So have to bring that up there. It comes up with a little splash screen. Then it's going to have, you know, all the plugins loaded and all that. Now, unfortunately, you know, on a solid state, this would take a lot less time. It would probably take 3-4 seconds like it does on my desktop. However, you know, if I'm just using this as a lower power desktop, I don't mind this as much. So there we go, we have Premiere open, we're good to go. Now, one thing I want to show you all right here is the whole energy manager. As you can see right here, there are multiple different things you can pick that Lenovo has set up, and there are even extra options available, which are really cool. So you could change, you know, you could see what is consuming all your power, your charging plan if you want to set this up. You can even do a conservation mode, so if you're not going to be using this laptop for a bit, you can make it so that it only charges your battery to like 50 to 60% and keeps it there, just so you don't have a full battery, and then, you know, you keep it in here for ages on end. You can also do express charging, which I always do, and that charges your battery in less than 2 hours, and it's quite fast. However, I would say this, if you're talking about battery life on this laptop sucks. And by that, I mean this battery can last, see, it says an hour 45 minutes with 88% left. This is on the highest power setting. So this battery life on this laptop normally lasts about 2 hours. That's what I want to guesstimate it at. You can stretch it out to 3 or 4 hours from what I've seen. But just go ahead and say, even if you put it on like something lower, You can stretch it out a bit, but normally you're going to be shooting for about 2 hours. So prepare to have the big power brick with you at almost all times. This thing is going to be your saving grace when you have this laptop. With that though, I will say the laptop itself is quite powerful for what it is. It renders videos like a beast. My 1080p videos, it renders at less than a 1:1 ratio, which is great. It plays games very well, and some of you might be asking, well, it's a gaming laptop, how does it handle? Well, I actually have a full gameplay video where I show different games and all that, trying to push it through different things, and I'm going to go ahead and put an annotation on screen or link it in the description. I'm going to do both, actually, because I talked about nothing but gameplay on here. I'm going to be talking about everything but gameplay. If I combine the two, it would be a really, really long video. But pretty much in short, I can say it's handled pretty much every single game I've thrown at it. The only exception I've really had is Rise. It doesn't play on anything higher than low properly. Low looks great for Rise Son of Rome, excuse me, butchered that. But the problem is it runs it on low at like 20 to 25 frames a second. I read about somebody having issues with Dead Rising 3. The only thing I could say to that is Dead Rising 3 was getting like 5 frames a second for someone. It's a really bad port, okay? It's universally known. It's a terrible port from the Xbox One to PC. So that's not necessarily the laptop's fault. That's more the developer's fault. But, you know, that's going to happen here and there. Now, I'd actually talked about the speakers before. I said, you know, I was impressed by them and everything. Now, you might want to hear them. Granted, this is my camera's stock mic, so it's not going to be doing the speakers justice, and it's not going to pick them up in the best manner. However, what I will do, you know, I'll try and play them so you can see how they are. I'm going to play a song by my friend Soul Slaveocracy. I use his music quite a bit, and he was kind enough to let me use the music and everything, but go ahead and turn up these speakers a little bit. That's at about 50%. And we can even like max them out here. And here's another artist I'm going to use. Again, these are people I know as well, but Elliot Fox, they've been awesome enough to let me use their music as well. So I'll go ahead and grab one of their songs off their Soundcloud here. We'll just go ahead and restart this. Now, one thing I'm going to say before I continue with that, there's actually a feature as well here, One Key Theater, and you can actually change what you want to listen to and everything. So I'll actually change it up while I'm doing all this, just so you can guys can kind of hear the settings. And that's literally all I can give you with that. That's just the teaser they have. I mean, they haven't even given me more, and they leaked a few songs out to me. So, yeah, I wish I had more of that song. Unfortunately, I don't. But, I mean, you all got to hear all the different things, and there's even a music preset, which, in my opinion, that's the one that sounded the best with all of this. Now, there's a few things you might be wondering with this laptop. First off, actually, how loud is it? You hear that? Hopefully silence. If anything, you hear my other desktop going right there. So this thing, almost dead silent. Even when it's really pushing the fans and all that, I mean, it gets a little loud, but it's still pretty quiet for what it is. Now, next up, you might be saying, okay, you've covered the gaming in another video. Check out the description, check out the annotation, whatever I decide to do, or I'll just do both. You've covered, you know, the price of it, you've covered the features, the good, the bad. Would you recommend this laptop? And I'll say this, for what I paid, $1,000, I couldn't be happier with it, outside the battery life really sucking, but most of the time, I have a charger available on hand, and I have a spare port available, a power port, so that works out. Now, the reason why I did get this model was because I was going to be getting another model, which was $880. However, for that $120 price difference, excuse me, I ended up getting a i7 instead of an i5. It was a quad core instead of a dual core. The i5 had, you know, it was a quad core. It had hyper threading, but it was really dual core. And also, the excuse me, the i5 revision ended up coming with a 1TB hard drive. This one was a 1TB solid state hybrid drive, which I would have spent more than $120, which is what I wanted to do. I would have spent more than $120 taking out the hard drive and putting in a hybrid drive alone. So I said, you know what? I really didn't want to spend $1,000. I didn't want to break, you know, that 4-figure mark on a laptop, but I'm going to spend more money getting a lower end laptop and upgrading the hybrid drive, upgrading to a hybrid drive, over getting this laptop and just being happy with it, you know, mostly happy with it. So I said, you know what, I'll just spend the extra money, I'll get this one, I'm glad I did. Now, right now, I've mostly seen it for $1,100, and that's really what it's hovering around, but aside from that, you know, what I paid, I feel very happy with it. If I was to pay $1,100, I don't know, that extra $100 might be kind of iffy for me. But with what I paid, I'm quite happy with it. I'm pleased with it. I'm pleased with the specs. It works out very well, and it gets the job done, honestly, even better than I expected. I mostly got this more for video editing and all that, even though, yeah, it's a gaming laptop. But video editing is a lot more demanding than gaming, at least with most games, you know. Games you can at least turn down and all that. Your video settings, no, if you're pushing out a 1080p demanding video, you're pushing out a demanding 1080p video, so there's not too much you can do about that. Now, would I recommend this laptop over a desktop? Some people have asked me that as well, and to that I would say, if you could choose one, and you're really in need of either a laptop or a desktop, I don't know, personally, I'd kind of want to go the desktop route. For $1,000, you can build a wonderful desktop, even better than this thing right here. And the nice thing is, it would be longer lasting. You could do maintenance on it much easier, and you can upgrade it. It will have great upgradability, because one person in one of my comments on one of these videos ended up asking, you know, they said, I considered getting a desktop, but editing on the go seems quite great. What would you recommend? And I said, well, I would still recommend getting a desktop for this money, if you could only choose one. Due to the fact that, I mean, if a part goes out, you can easily replace it. You can easily upgrade your parts, anything like that. On this thing, no. I bought this laptop with the intention of really the only things I might ever upgrade are, I might upgrade the RAM from 8 to 16 gigs at one point whenever I feel like I need it. And I don't know, maybe in the future, maybe in like a year or two, I'll see the need to get a new drive. So I might do stuff like that, but with the GPU and the CPU, I know I'm not going to be upgrading, and to be honest, I don't even think you can upgrade them on here. All in all, I'm quite happy with the laptop. I've been pleased with it. As I said, I said before, so far I'm going to be giving it a pretty solid review, and this thing, I am giving it a pretty good review. My cons with it are, of course, the aesthetics of it. You know, I just don't like the look of the outside of this laptop. USB ports aren't the best. The battery life, as I said, is terrible on this thing. But aside from that, you know, the hybrid drive, the screen, the way the keyboard works, everything is great. Oh, actually, one thing I wanted to talk about before I ended this all. Sometimes this actually doesn't happen too much, but occasionally you'll have this issue where the mouse here, when you're using this, just kind of stops working. And I thought it might be this whole assembly, but no, I think it's just something, and as I said, I think it's because I just use the laptop more and things get cached over. But there will be times where I'm, you know, using my mouse, and it's more when the laptop's like booting or something, or when it's doing some demanding, it just stops working. I can't move it, and I know it's not the whole assembly, because if I do a right click, it works. If I left click on something, it works. But if I try to move the mouse for about 15-20 seconds, I might be stuck sometimes. Thankfully, I do normally use an external mouse, so that can be avoided. However, that might be an issue that some people have. So not everything is going to be perfect, but For the $1,000 price mark I paid on this, I'm pretty much satisfied with it. Also, this past weekend, we did have a 24-hour game stream, and it was for charity, so it was all fun and everything. But I had this thing on for over 24 hours, and I was playing games, and I was, you know, doing some heavy multitasking on here. It all worked out pretty well. I was quite happy with it. Didn't have a single issue with it. It didn't get too hot. It didn't overheat. Nothing like that. Now, I will say this. I have owned this laptop for less than a month, and while I feel like I'm giving it a fair review, this doesn't mean that issues could not arise. Now, issues might happen in 2 months. Maybe issues will pop up in 5 or 6 months. Maybe in a year and a half, I'm going to have bigger issues. But right now, this moment in time, I think it's pretty sturdy. I think it's pretty well made. And normally I've noticed with my own experience, if you cheap out on a laptop, you're going to get a cheapened experience. If you spend more on the entry to get a good laptop when you first get it, it will treat you pretty well. That's been my experience with it, because I mean, I'll just be straight up. I've looked at several laptops. I've seen $400 laptops break down much more often than $1,500 laptops. So that's really all there is to it. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hope this helped you out a little bit. Hope you enjoyed this review. And again, you know, if you want to see any actual gameplay over this, especially since this is a gameplay laptop, I'll have a link down below in the description. Anyways, signing off for real this time. Later, everyone.